Leaders across the world have condemned last night's events and voiced relief that Trump, the dinner guests, which included many foreigners, were safe. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said, quote, any attack on democratic institutions or on the freedom of the press must be condemned in the strongest possible terms. And Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney noted that, quote, political violence has no place in any democracy. My thoughts are with all those who have been shaken by this disturbing event. Joining us now at the table, Chrystia Freeland, former Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister of Canada. She attended the dinner last night. I think what a lot of people assume about this dinner is that it is just folks that are within the United States press, within the United States government, but that is not true. There are often many ambassadors in the room, folks like yourself who have worked in the government. And so the range of experiences are very different, especially for those of you that don't grow up in America and haven't grown up in America with our relationship to gun violence. I'm curious how your experience in that room went last night.
Well, you know, I think it's important to start by thanking the Secret Service. It's easy after an event like this to focus on what went wrong, but I think it's good to focus on what went right as well. At the end of the day, the Secret Service was effective. People put their lives on the line to protect, you know, the president, the cabinet, the first lady, but everyone in the room. They did their job and they were successful. I think someone was injured. And I think we should all hope that he's okay.
He is. The Secret Service agent has been discharged, according to the United States Secret Service.
Yeah, so I think we should say to them, thank you very much.
But what was your experience like in the room?
I wouldn't want to dramatize it. It was a really big room. I was with lots of journalists I was at the Bloomberg table. I was with people who are used to being in challenging situations. I don't think any of us felt in danger. I certainly didn't.
Had you been to that dinner before?
Yeah.
You know, during your tenure as a very senior part of leadership in Canada, I imagine you have had to grapple with the issue of political violence. The president made some comments about political violence really spreading and an uptick of it throughout the world last night in his remarks in the press briefing after the fact. How did it factor into the way that you viewed your role, the public remarks that you made to constituents, to voters, to the Canadian public? And should politicians, you know, should there just be sort of an acceptance that this is our new reality? And in what real ways can people change this trend? Our leaders change the trend?
Well, I'll tell you something that may surprise you. So I was Deputy Prime Minister, Finance Minister, Foreign Minister, Trade Minister. In all of that time, I never had security. I would walk freely in my neighborhood, fly on planes by myself.
What was that time
period? Go grocery shopping. I was in government from 2015 to last year. And the only time I would have security was when there was a specific threat against me. And that was, you know, a half dozen times. So, and in Canada, that is very common. Ministers are just in the world. And it's actually great. You know, I would say some of the biggest political decisions I took because I would be going for a run with my husband and my constituents would stop me, people would recognize me, and they'd come up to me and they'd tell me what they thought, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. So the thing that I really worry about is the way that this obviously violent climate can cut politicians off from the people that they represent and means they don't have an opportunity to actually talk to people. And people don't have an opportunity to talk to their leaders. To me, that's not just sad, it's a real loss for democracy.
I'm curious about, I mean, I'm sure American viewers who are watching, their minds have been blown by the fact that a senior government official, you were able to live your life without security. American officials at your level don't know what that life is like. I'm curious, you said you would only get security when there were specific threats. Did you get security when you traveled abroad? Did you get security when you came to the United States?
Again, it would always depend on the threat level. So the RCMP would judge, was it a dangerous environment or not? And if it was a dangerous environment, you'd get security. So, obviously traveling to Ukraine was the most security. Some countries, no security.
That's interesting, that point you just made, because that was one of the recommendations that was made in the wake of the Butler attempted assassination, for protective assignments to be made dependent on the threat level and not necessarily the protectee.
And just to explain the acronym you just used, RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, is what you were talking about. Former Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, Chrystia Freeland, thank you very much for coming back to The Weekend.